So we're going to learn Ein Yakov. We're holding in Tractate Yevamot, and the topic of today is cautionary rules to protect the Torah. We learned this morning in the Daf Yomi, Tractate Menachot, that Rabbi Yehuda ben Nehemiah answered or challenged Rabbi Tarfon, not in a non-respectful way, and Rabbi Akiva said, I wonder if this guy will end up living this year, and this is what ended up happening. So he did not make it through the year, a young guy. So this is interesting, a similar concept as cautionary rules to protect the Torah. Now, if it's related or not, but it's... Anyway, Rava said, where in the Torah do we find a hint regarding incestuous or relations of the second degree? I guess illicit relations of second degree. It says, I think it's speaking about relatives, right? Of second degree, like cousins, uncles, aunties. It says in reference to incest, for all those abominations were done by the people who were in the land before you. In other words, the Canaanites were occupying the land before, and Hashem says you got to be careful not to fall into the same trap, because they are kicked out of the land because of what they did, because of these abominations. And the land became contaminated. That's from Leviticus. Now the expression hakel, those denotes grave, all those grave abominations. This implies that there are milder ones. There's serious abominations and there are milder ones. And what are they? The cases of incest of the secondary degree. So the Gemara asked, how do you know that El denotes something grave? Because it says, and he took away the mighty of the land. Okay? That's from Yechezkel. Ezekiel 17:13. Shall we say that this contradicts the opinion of Rabbi Levi? For Rabbi Levi said, the punishment for dishonest weights, a guy that plays with his weights and measures, is more severe than that for marrying forbidden relatives. The Torah treated so severely.
Because you're dealing with the public and you're lying to them, knowing that you're lying to them.
Right.
You're doing the thing with
I think one of the tricks,
you're making an agreement.
One of the tricks over here, they don't go into what's the reasoning behind it, but one of the ways of tricking was because back in the day, how they measured things is that, so they had, let's say, one weight that they knew it's 10 pounds, and then they would put the vegetables on the other side. They would know it's now when it gets to becomes even, then you know it's 10 pounds. So if let's say this stone is 5 pounds or 10 pounds, they would soak it in salt. Although it says 10 pounds on it, but it not really weigh 10 pounds. So that's one of the tricks they used to do. They used to put it in salt.
What if they didn't know?
Oh no! The only dealing with something that is intentional. Intentional. If somebody did a mistake, it's something else. But I heard a story with a guy that he went to a class and he heard that he should be very honest in business, and he used to sell I think it's paper towels. He used to sell paper towels, and it says on the paper, maybe industrial ones, and it's like 500. He said nobody's ever going to count. Nobody's ever going to count 500 sheets in paper. So he used to put 450 or 470, and he went like this for years. He was selling it. He had no problems. So when he heard the lesson, he kind of felt bad. So he said to the rabbi, "What should I do? I mean, I have been doing it all along." So the rabbi told him, from now on, you should add. Don't say anything. Just add to if you wrote 500, put 530. So he started doing it. Started putting 530 in his manufacturing this paper towel. One day, they decided, the big company decided that they're buckling down and everything, and they measured it. They counted the paper towels that came from him and counted the paper towels that came from other companies. Lo and behold, all the other companies were lying about the number, and he was the only one that came out with it. So he got massive orders because of being honest. So it was worthwhile listening to not playing with the weights.
I think a few years ago, Subway, the guy measured the subs. They were like an inch short. So I want to take him to court because he said, "You're not giving me a foot long. You're giving me 11 inches.
Right.
You still owe me an inch."
It's like those who were arguing about the beer,
they short you, right?
They
exactly.
short you by the foam, right? So you don't really get a full cup. So anyway, shall we say that this contradicts the opinion of Rabbi Levi? For Rabbi Levi said the punishment for dishonest weights and measures is more severe than that for marrying forbidden relatives. For in the case of forbidden unions, the Torah uses the term el or al, and in the case of the dishonest weights, the term eleah or aliyah is used. In other words, to say that this terminology is more severe than the terminology used for forbidden relatives. The Torah uses a stronger language, so therefore it shows us that it's more severe. That's the opinion of Levi. So it says, all who do this are an abomination to God, your Lord. Deuteronomy 25:16. El denotes severity. Aliyah denotes greater severity. The additional A, or the letter Hey or Aleph of Aliyah, is seen as an indication of more severe punishment for false weights and measure. The Gemara asks, but in connection with forbidden unions, is also says Aliyah. The Gemara answers, the Aliyah was written to exclude the sin of false weights from karet, death, heavenly death, the punishment of premature death. The Gemara asks, if forbidden relations are punishable by karet, and false measures are not, then in what way are false measures more severe than forbidden relations? So the Gemara answers, in the case of incest, it is possible to do tshuva as long as no child was born of the forbidden union. A person can do teshuva, but for false measures, he cannot do tshuva, since he does not know whom he cheated. Imagine a guy was selling thousands of people every year, he has thousands of customers, he doesn't know whom he cheated. He cannot make restitution. And it is essential that restitution is made before he can do teshuva. Rav Yehuda said the prohibition of relations of the second degree may be derived from here. He, Solomon, King Shlomo HaMelech, Solomon listened and thought out and arranged many proverbs explaining this verse. Ula said in the name of Rabbi Lozo, before the time of Shlomo HaMelech, the Torah was like a basket without handles. When Shlomo came, he attached handles to it to protect it from falling. In the same way, Shlomo prohibited incest of the second degree as a cautionary rule to safeguard against transgression of the laws of the Torah itself. Second degree, like you're not directly relative.
And then it's another.
Shlomo HaMelech added that even second degree relatives are prohibited.
Gotcha. Today
They can prove that even genetic wise it's not a smart thing to do. Rabbi Yoshai said the prohibition of incestuous relations of the second degree may be derived from here. It says, avoid it, do not pass through it, veer away from it, and pass by it. That's from Proverbs. The verse alludes to the Torah. We should add restrictions to it, like the prohibition of incestuous relations of the second degree, as to avoid violations of the laws of the Torah itself. That's the concept of putting a fence.
Would this be like a rabbinical degree? Because in the Torah it says don't add and don't subtract. So in this
But the
case,
rabbis
Shlomo
had the
HaMelech-
capability of
Right,
doing
right.
it, specifically Shlomo HaMelech, the wisest man. Said Rav Ashi, Rabbi Yeshaya's interpretation may be presented as an allegory of man who guards an orchard. If he watches it from the outside, all of it is protected. If he watches it from the inside, the section in front of him is protected, but the section behind him is not protected. It tells you guard the orchard from the outside. The Gemara comments, Rav Ashi analogy is inappropriate. In the case of the orchard, the section in front of him at least is protected. Whereas here, if it were not for the prohibition of the incestuous relations of the second degree, a person would engage in incestuous relations forbidden by the Torah. We have to have it. If not, people are ultimately going to marry someone of first degree. Rav Kahana said it may be derived from at least from the last verse in the chapter about incestuous relations. You shall safeguard my charge, Leviticus 18:30. Meaning, make a protection for my protection. To put a fence on top of a fence, enact additional provisions to safeguard God's original commandment. Said Abai to Rav Yosef, Rav Kahana's verse in Leviticus surely is Torah law. Why then? Why are these forbidden relations described as prohibitions of the second degree? It's already mentioned in the Torah. Why are you calling it second degree? Rav Yosef answered, it is indeed Torah law, but the rabbis have expounded it. Countered Abai. Well, the entire Torah was expounded by the rabbis, and no one would characterize those laws as second degree. But the fact is that the prohibitions of incest of the second degree were enacted by the rabbis, and the verse quoted is used only as a slight allusion. That's the Ein Yakov for today. Bruchim Tiyah.